What's going on, guys? This is Magic Mike and the Swag, and we are continuing our little video series on NBA season previews. And today we are doing the San Antonio Spurs.
Your favorite team?
I love the Spurs. Pretty interesting offseason.
Absolutely.
Right? The big trade, obviously, is sending Kawhi Leonard and Danny Green to Toronto for DeMar DeRozan and Jakob Poeltl. Right?
Love that.
I love it too. Kawhi was my favorite player until last year when he just went MIA, right? And he's got his team, his representation talking and doing all this stuff. It's like, A, if you're disgruntled, come out and say it. Don't have your uncle come and do your dirty work for you. And B, you signed a contract. Like, show up and
own it.
Yeah, like him not being at games and stuff. Like, if you're hurt, that's cool, but you still got to be there to support the team.
Oh,
so Kawhi just really went down in my book. Obviously, it's a huge loss. He's probably the second best player in the league, overall. But the fact that he wasn't playing last year, pretty much, you're getting DeMar DeRozan for what you had in Danny Green last year. So
plus more.
Oh, and Jakob Poeltl, which I think is going to be huge for him because
big X factor.
He's going to be huge. I think he'll fit right in with Popovich's style of coaching, really utilizing these bigs that are a little bit more versatile and a little bit more finesse-oriented. And especially with Pau Gasol getting older, that extension they gave him a couple years ago just seemed like a just terrible move. And I love Pau to the Spurs, but not for the amount of money that they're paying him. And, I mean, last year you could see it. He's getting older. He can't.
Yeah.
He would have 5 bad plays, and then he'd have like a 3. Right? And then he'd have another 4 bad plays, and then he'd get a nice rebound. But, again, what you're getting, all the good stuff is compounded by, a bunch more bad stuff. So, love Jakob Poeltl. Hopefully you can plug him in there with Aldridge and really kind of solidify what you're doing maybe at the end of games and stuff.
Absolutely.
And then DeMar DeRozan, you add another all-star to your team, huge.
Some scoring, which you, for the most part, not having Kawhi, you lacked a little bit last year.
Oh, big
scoring
time.
Aspect.
You need a star that could kind of put him over the top. And LaMarcus Aldridge did awesome, but you need a guard who can really do that.
Yeah.
And DeJounte Murray had an injury.
That was unfortunate.
Super unfortunate. Really liked the way he was progressing.
Oh,
fantastic. He was, he's kind of the future. And so...
the new future.
Yeah, terrible injury.
Yeah.
So we wish him the best of luck. But probably moving Patty Mills into that starting point guard spot, which isn't a bad situation.
No, it's not a huge drop-off at all.
He's one of Pop's guys, so you can plug him in. And he's solid. Like, again, he's better coming off the bench because he's just this kind of good in these little scoring bunches. When he starts, he's solid, but not enough to really take over. And then you got Rudy Gay. Rudy Gay, loved that they re-signed him. Loved what he did last year for him. It's interesting. They have him listed as a small forward this year. He was primarily playing power forward last year when he was in there. So it'll be interesting to see how they use him and what that role looks like for him. But love the fact that they brought him back. Also, they got Bellinelli back. And Bellinelli was killing it with the Sixers last year. So
he's your guy, isn't he?
I love him. Not much of a defender, but you talked about scoring. He can really put the ball in the hoop. So love him coming off the bench. Ginobili retired, which was a huge hit to the organization. But Spurs just find ways to plug people in. So they got Bryn Forbes coming back, and I'm sure they're going to pull a bunch of people from all over the world.
Absolutely.
Plug them in.
Just a bunch of Europeans.
Yeah. So all in all, one of the things we like to talk about in these breakdowns is which way they are trending. Are they trending upwards as a whole, or are they kind of, bottoming out or topping out, or are they, kind of, tanking and trending down? I think they did a really good job salvaging the roster that they had. I know Pop's getting older and kind of where the future with Pop is kind of uncertain.
Yeah.
I think he's fine. I think he'll be here for another few years at least. He seemed it's just a perfect situation for him. So
Absolutely.
I really like what they did here by bringing in DeRozan and Jakob Poeltl. And again, once they get DeJounte Murray back next year, I think they're really, they got a nice team. This year, where do you see them kind of stacking up? Where do you see them finishing off?
It's similar to what we were talking about off camera.
Okay.
So not having Kawhi, they're still a good team, and the fact that you basically now have an all-star, in a sense, like they got better.
Yeah.
Now this is what I'm talking about. Before Murray didn't get hurt.
Right.
If Murray was playing and they're healthy, I think they definitely got a lot better than they were the previous year. Now with Murray, out for the season, that's a massive loss.
Right.
I mean, he was coming on strong, like you said. He's basically the future of the Spurs. Now, the drop-off isn't too severe as Patty Mills still gets a lot of minutes.
Right.
He took over that Tony Parker spot. He was getting those minutes.
Right.
But 3 guards,
they've
lost. I mean, that's just crazy. Or not. Let me correct me. They weren't lost, but they're out for several weeks, which is a huge loss. I mean, that's a tight window for a spot. So I wouldn't be surprised if they go out to a team and try to trade for another guard.
Interesting. Okay, so you're seeing a trade on the horizon.
Maybe a trade, or you go to Europe and just sign one of those, one of those guys off the roster for a little temporary situation.
Right.
I mean, if that's the route, or you just give Mills the minutes, and you just roll.
I'm high on the Spurs this year. I think they could finish as good as 3rd in the East.
Do you think they can?
Or somewhere in between 3rd and 5th.
West.
Oh, my bad. 3rd and 5th in the West. Again, Pop just finds a way of running a machine, and he just plugs players in. And I think they've got enough star power with DeRozan and LaMarcus Aldridge to kind of get stuff done. You got a lot of veteran play with Rudy Gay and Pau Gasol, who were stars at one point.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
so they can still hold it down. Again, Patty Mills, solid guy scoring off the bench. You got Bellinelli was solid scoring off the bench. Bryn Forbes has shown a lot of good things with and playing for Pop. Losing Tony Parker, we didn't mention that earlier, but I feel like he's was washed. He didn't really do anything for him last year, and ever since that injury, he 2 years ago, he hasn't been the same. And so they lost Kyle Anderson.
Yeah.
I liked him a lot, but you can plug in one of these other guys to fit.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not.
Yeah, so I like them again. I think I could see them finishing 5th. But potentially 3rd, depending on what LeBron can do with the Lakers.
Absolutely.
But I feel like that 3rd spot in the West is open for.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So anyway, that's all I
I
have.
have one last point to make.
Okay.
Now, I think the biggest loss for the Spurs with Tony Parker and Ginobili is leadership.
Okay.
Now, I think Pop is really big on having mentors, bringing in young guys, having them get mentored. I like that Gasol's in that same 5 spot for say his name.
Jakob Poeltl.
There you go.
What about DeRozan? DeRozan, he falls apart in the playoffs, but
he's in the
showed
Spurs system. He's in the system to win.
Yeah, and he showed a lot of leadership in with the Raptors.
Oh, I don't think they're completely washed on leadership. I just think that was the biggest loss that Tony Parker left.
Yeah.
Now Ginobili obviously brought a little more, but
I think they still have their culture and they have Spurs guys. So
They're
you don't have
winners.
these head cases in the locker room that are showing up. You don't have like Gilbert Arenas in the locker room.
Oh man.
You've got a bunch of professional men who show up and do their job, and I think they're professionals, and I think they show up every day and they do the work. So I think again, picking up DeRozan when you didn't have Kawhi last year was huge, and I think not having that drama, I think that drama kind of looming over them last season took effect. And so once Kawhi, once they realized Kawhi wasn't coming back, they were holding it down, but it was kind of the uncertainty, with everything that was going on. I think now that that's behind them, they can just play basketball and do them.
Absolutely.
So anyway, that's it for the Spurs.
It for me.
Yeah, so subscribe below, and until next time, peace.